my dissertation is on the transition readiness assessment of pediatric patients with sickle cell disease to adult care at the sickle cell clinic of Kwamfanochi Teaching Hospital, Kumasi. And my dissertation was under the mentorship of Ms. Miriam Kwatin-Siam and Dr. Vivian Painter. Sickle cell disease is an inherited disease characterized by the presence of abnormal hemoglobin molecules. This means that parents with the sickle trait can give birth to a child with the disease. And sickle cell is characterized by a crescent-shaped hemoglobin. So if the shape is sickle, that is why we have the S. And you can imagine the shape of a banana. That's how the sickle cell shape is. And then when it does that, it occludes blood vessels in circulation. The genotypes that give rise to sickle cell disease are hemoglobin SS, hemoglobin SC, hemoglobin beta thalassemia, and beta 0 thalassemia. It's a global problem, and Africa has its fair share of the condition, with an estimation of 12 to 15 million out of the total number of people living with the disease, 20 to 25 million. And West Africa also has the prevalence rate, and Ghana also. The dominant types in Ghana are the SS and SC. And so we have a sickle trait of 30% in the Ghanaian population. And there was the introduction of the sickle cell program by Dr. Ahene Frimpong in 1995. And because of that, we've been able to have data on newborn screening of babies born with sickle cell disease. And currently we have 2% in the population. Vaso-occlusive crisis is the hallmark of sickle cell disease, and this is marked by episodes of sudden unbearable pain. So we see in the picture somebody who's had a crisis. It's so painful. You can see from the way he's lying that he's in pain. So that's the vaso-occlusive crisis. And this occurs throughout life. It is often unpredictable. The current treatment for sickle cell is hydration, transfusion, and hydroxyurea. The disease is characterized by a drop in the hemoglobin levels, and so sometimes patients are transfused with blood at the hospitals. And we have hydroxyurea. This is a new therapy which improves fetal hemoglobin in the patient's circulation, and this reduces the number of times a patient has crisis. The current treatment actually for sickle cell now is a stem cell transplantation, and this is not possible for many because it's very expensive and there are many procedural components. Sickle cell was characterized to be a condition of childhood, and so we didn't have many of them living to adult life. But with advancements of medicine, we now have people who have lived into adulthood. And so those in adulthood have been faced with a lot of challenges, particularly physically and psychologically. And physical challenges have got to do with the symptoms of the condition. As patients age, the natural history of the condition is said that they are predisposed more to symptoms. And then also with education, as you age, you achieve higher education, and this brings stress. So it also predisposes patients to a lot of the symptoms. Also, in adolescent age of patients with sickle cell conditions, they are left with the responsibility of taking on the care of themselves from their primary medical microsystem, like the doctors, the nurses, and even their family. They are expected to know at that stage to take care of themselves, how to cope, and that. And then this makes the adolescents not ready for this shift because they still see that they are young, and so they are not ready for the shift of responsibility from their primary caregivers onto themselves, and they are not able to navigate the healthcare system properly. And also, there is not enough transition programs for them. They are not taught how to transition, how to take care of themselves, all the problems. And so this exposes the children to a lot of complications. There was a study with the cadaver or bodies of patients, adolescents who had died. And sickle cell was known to be one of the top 3 specific causes in adolescents. Because of these issues, there's a need for a transition program. So what is transition? Transition is basically focusing the pediatric life healthcare services to the adult care. So that's transition. And then transition readiness is putting up decisions and programs in place to help the patient with sickle cell disease in the adolescent age to be capable to take care of himself or herself. but transition is not easy. It can be very traumatic for an adolescent with sickle cell. In view of that, at the Confanoche Sickle Cell Clinic, where we have a sickle cell clinic, the program started in 1995. The transition there is very abrupt. It starts at an early age of 15, and so it is important that we have resources, information, guidance, and support system for adolescents at the clinic so they will know how to better take care of themselves. Our main objectives was to assess the transition readiness of pediatric patients with sickle cell disease at the Confanoche Teaching Hospital Sickle Cell Clinic, adult care, and also assess the perception of their guidance or parents on their children's transition readiness. Our study site was at Sickle Cell Clinic of Confanoche Teaching Hospital, and we chose this place because the sickle cell screening program began there, and we thought that it would be good to start from where the program started. The inclusion criteria for the study was children between the ages of 12 to 15 years and with a confirmed diagnosis of sickle cell disease presenting to the clinic, and then accompanying parents must be with them. The exclusion criteria, if they didn't come with any guardian or parent, we didn't use them. And if they came in with vaso-occlusive crisis also, we didn't use them. But some came with other pain, not the crisis itself, but with the guidance, we used them. There was a section for demographics. There was a section for the impacts of the sickle cell disease on the patient. And then there was a section for their independence in managing the condition. And we had a section that spoke about the transition specific, the issues over there. And we also have a section for looking at the psychosocial impact of the condition on their lives, how they live daily with their condition. The interviews were conducted after we had explained the procedure to the patient that it was not by force, we didn't put them under duress, it didn't change how the doctors or the nurses were going to see them at the clinic, and so if they agreed, they signed our consent forms, and we had a private room with them, and then we interviewed them. We documented on a sheet, and later we transcribed to the laptop and did a descriptive analysis. So these are our results. For the demographic results, we have the ages of our participants. And we could see that majority of them were within the ages of 12. And then we had 25% falling in the age of 14. And then 20% in the age of 15. And then that's the gender also. We had 40% male ratio to a 60% of female. And then we also asked them their reasons for visiting the clinic. So majority were at the clinic for a regular checkup. And then others were there for either hydroxyurea therapy or for non-VOC pain crisis. We also had a session for the hemoglobin genotype participants. And here we asked them whether they knew their status. So 60% knew they were SS and 30% knew they were SC, but 10% didn't know their status. And with their patient consent, we confirmed from their patient folder and then we got that 25% were accurate. If they said they were SS with the confirmation from the folder, it was true. But we had 15% of them who thought maybe they were SC, but from the folder you could see that they were SS. And so 15% were inaccurate. And we had a whopping 50% of them who didn't know their status, even in their age, and were supposed to be transitioned in maybe a couple of years. So it became a concern for us. In terms of assessing their medical knowledge, majority of them knew it was a blood disease, and 10% disagreed it was not, and 20% didn't know. As to knowing the types of sickle cell disease and how each type affects each individual differently, 50% agreed they knew, and 15% disagreed, 5% didn't know. And then in terms of the condition being a genetic condition, in that with their status, they could carry a trait to their unborn babies, or even if they met a partner who also had a trait, they could have a child with a condition. Majority of them agreed they were aware, and 25% disagreed, 15% didn't know. So we could see that those who didn't know, those who disagreed, is quite a number. So there's a need for medical knowledge and education in that regard. In terms of their level of independence in managing the condition, we had 55% of them knowing what to do when they were in crisis to lessen the crisis, and 45% didn't know. And then the places to go to seek for help in terms of when they are having crisis too, 70% of them knew where to go to, and 30% didn't know. And then in terms of how they get there, the things to say so that they could be attended to, because when they are in vaso-occlusive crisis, it is an emergency. And so 75% of them knew what to say exactly to get the needed help in good time. In terms of the impact of the condition on their psychosocial well-being, 85% of them worry about the condition. And we realize that it's because of the chronicity of the condition. The condition is said that it is chronic and you have to live with it daily. And so 85% of them were worried about the condition on their lives. And then telling their friends about their condition, 40% of them agreed, they tell their friends they were in crisis. So maybe their friends could help them, and sometimes when they miss classes, they could come to them with groups and certain things. But a majority of them were not comfortable telling their friends. But we had majority telling teachers about their status, and we'll get to know the reasons in the next slides. In terms of knowledge, majority didn't have adequate information. And then in terms of anxiety and the fear of the unknown in the adult clinic too, we have majority expressing concerns. And then the desire for transition program, almost the whole participants agreed that they needed a form of transition program to help them become ready for the transition. And with experience, as they grow, they get to know the chronicity, the way their symptoms come in, so they learn on the condition and they are better able to manage than those who were between the ages of 12 to 30. And this was consistent with a study done by Annie in 2004. Also, more than half of the participants knew what to do to ease their pain, which I said. For example, we had participants or patients, 2 females, saying that I apply a locally prepared topical ointment called Bojo Talk to ease my pain. So what this patient was saying, that when she's in pain, there's a local preparation. She will apply it to either the joint, that pain there, and then the pain will come down. And then we had another female telling us that she drinks a lot of water to ease her pain. And then a male patient, number 7, telling us that he takes his prescribed analgesics, which are painkillers, to ease the pain. Also, most participants who were in severe crisis knew where to go to. But the interesting aspect of it is that they will not say that, oh, please, I am a sickle cell patient and I'm in crisis. They'd rather tell the doctors that, please, I have pain here, I have pain that, and describe the body parts which pains them. And so it was consistent with the fact that there's stigmatization and there's low self-esteem in the adolescents. So they'd rather not openly declare their status and get the help in time, but will take a lot of time to explain the part that hurts them. And the majority of them also expressed why they did not tell their friends. Someone said that if she told her friends, they would laugh at her. And this also points to the issues of stigmatization and social isolation, which was also consistent with a publication by Annie in 2010. Some also expressed worry about missing school. And this was because they were given appointment. And so if your appointment clashed with a date for exam or something, you were torn between the two. And so it was a source of worry to one of the patients. And he expressed it in the statement. It's like, all of my siblings, I am the only one with it, and having to miss school to come worries me. Also, in terms of the condition controlling them, we have the patient and their parent or guardian saying that they do not allow the condition to control them. So they made a statement that we don't entertain the sickness like that. And this also shows how much as Africans and as Ghanaians, there's a strong family support. And also there's a strong faith in God and we believe in spirituality. And then even though the condition is chronic and they are faced with the challenges of the symptoms, they were still very hopeful that the condition will not controlling them. And they expressed belief also in God. So one parent expressed that even though when it comes, the pain is very severe, she has hope that it will be well one day by God's grace. And this is also consistent with a study by Annie. On the transition-specific issues, although the majority felt they will be ready to transition, they still expressed a number of concerns. The concerns about inadequate information, anxiety, and the fear of the unknown. And we have some of the quotes that in their adult clinic, they didn't know how to take their cards and stuff. And then we came up with a conclusion. So our conclusion is that it calls for more attention to be drawn to education of adolescents at the sickle cell clinic. And then also, there were psychosocial issues, stigmatization, social isolation, low self-esteem. And so we need to put in place programs to address this. Overall, we determined that knowledge about having to transition to adult care amongst patients between 12 and 15 years who attended the sickle cell clinic was inadequate. And so we need to fill in the knowledge gaps, especially for the older adults, 14 to 15. So there's a need for a transition program to address all the issues. And then particularly the healthcare professionals, doctors and the nurses at the adult side, if we could have them come in occasionally, bi-weekly or monthly, to talk to the patient at the pediatric side so that they could allay all their fears and anxieties. This is by way of recommendation. And then if there could be flexibilities in sending their appointments so that it doesn't clash with their classes. Because we realized that some of them had defaulted and they gave such reasons. Also, there should be quality electronic records keeping and tracking system to follow up appointments. We realized that at the sickle cell clinic they didn't have that. So there was a patient who had defaulted for like 3 years and was now returning to the clinic because he's had a severe crisis more than previously. So now he came. So it tells us that there may be many more who have defaulted, but because they don't have a way of keeping track of the patient, they will lose all of such. This is by way of our references and then acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge ARA first. We did that, but the pen drive didn't support it, so this is an old version of it. For the opportunity given me, even though I'm a nurse, I didn't have a one-on-one. I'm at the emergency department, so working at the sickle cell clinic has given me enough information about the role of nurses in advocating for patients. And so I want to thank ARA for this opportunity. Also to my supervisor, Dr. Vivian Pinto of the pediatric unit, Dr. Nancy Green, and also Miriam Pattinson, my mentor, as well as the staff of the sickle cell clinic and our participants. Also, I want to thank all my colleagues here, those with us at Care University. We're all fun to work with. So thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Catherine?
Very interesting presentation, because we also do sickle cell screening for newborns at K. So we do the lab aspects, and then the blood is collected from them. Were you working with them?
Yes, please, we did.
Great. But what do you think? With your recommendations, I was wondering whether you were also going to recommend something for the public, some public education on people being conscious of this before getting to know, so that so we can avoid, we can reduce. You didn't have anything. You just want to manage them when they get the condition.
No, really. We had insight into this, so I'd want to use the opportunity to talk about that here, and then those of us can spread that information.
Yeah, so you can even spread it here with us.
Yes.
You share that with us.
Yes. It's important that we all know our sickling status, and then it guides our choice of partners for marriage. Because sickle cell actually is a condition that you may think, you can manage, but trust you me, if you see a child in pain as a parent, you'll be so desperate you would have wished not to have brought that child into the world. So I'd want to advise all of us that we should know our sickling status, and then it should guide us in our choice of marriage. If you know a partner and you still want to go ahead despite your status, then we'll have some help with the medical team in terms of managing your baby, but it's not going to be easy. So why not prevent than, to go into it. Thank you very much, Dr.